In this video, I really want to talk to you about why I think you should basically never ever pass up a dock when you're out there fishing. Whether you're fishing in lakes or rivers or even in ponds, a dock, if you think about it, is really kind of the perfect piece of habitat for a bass. I mean, it provides cover, it provides a lot of shade, you know, it attracts a lot of bait fish and bluegills for those exact same reason, which also in turn attract bass. And the thing about docks is that you can catch fish on them year round. I mean, spring, summer, fall, winter, bass can be found on docks. And in this video, I want to talk about 3 tips, 3 things that I always do when I am fishing a dock that I think help to put more fish in the boat, or like I said, from the bank. But before we get into the video, this one's brought to you by my apparel company, Finn Fishing. As a lot of you guys know, I am running a sale right now for the month of June 2024. You can buy a USA made sun shirt, a bass hat with a wooden bass badge on it, and a pair of sun gloves, all for $84 plus free shipping. I think the normal price is $106 on all that. So it's a good savings and it's really easy. All you got to do is add the sun shirt that you like to cart. I have some solid colors now, as a lot of you also know. Add the sun gloves you like to cart, add the hat that you like to cart. It will automatically discount at checkout, and it's the best way to help support this channel. I greatly appreciate it. All right, let's talk about docks. And like I said, docks, man, you can catch bass on docks no matter where you go. When I grew up, there was a dock in the pond in my parents' backyard, and I caught more fish probably off of that one dock. It may have been the same fish over and over. No, I know it wasn't, but I caught so many fish off that one dock over the years. It's just, I can't even count them all up. But anyways, I want to talk real specifically about docks, because not all docks are created equal, and there's a few key things when it comes to dock fishing that I think can really help you to just eliminate water and start catching a lot of fish. Now, the first thing that is probably the most important thing, and even something that you may have heard before, is that you really got to think about where the bass are positioned on docks. This can really help you eliminate a lot of water, because some places that you go in the country, I mean, docks can be pretty big. They can be pretty big, and there can be docks everywhere. So you really got to think about is the where. And there's 2 parts to this where. The first one is where on the dock are the bass located, because this can help you really to be able to start running and gunning. A number of years ago, I was catching fish on Lake Chautauqua up in New York off of docks, and I fished it 2 days in a row. The first day, every fish that I caught, I figured out they were on the platform of the dock, the main platform of the dock. I wouldn't fish anything else. I would skip once or twice underneath that dock platform, and if a fish was there, I was gonna catch them, and then I just kept moving on. Well, the very next day, I showed up and anticipated that is exactly what I was gonna do. I went like 2 hours without even getting a bite, and I was completely dumbfounded because I was catching fish really consistently throughout the entire lake, and I just was not getting bit at all. And for whatever reason, I decided to cast up on the walkway and on this particular day, on this day, after like 2 hours. And I caught a fish. Actually, I didn't catch a fish. I got bit, swung, and missed. And I'm like, huh. The very next dock I came to, I flipped up on the walkway and I caught a fish. And then it clicked with me right then and there. Maybe these fish have transitioned to the walkways. And so I started going back through a lot of the exact same docks that I had just fished, but fishing the walkways instead of the platform. And I was catching fish as good as I had the day before. And in my mind was blown this day. I was just like, man, I can't believe all these fish made this movement. And not only that, they made this movement like overnight. It was insane to me. And, you know, I always like to know why. And I think the biggest reason as to why this happened this day is because these fish were starting to push up to spawn. And I think the fish were literally staging the day before on the platforms and moving up to start spawning on those walkways or around those walkway areas. With that being said, you don't always need to know why, but sometimes you just need to figure out what the bass are doing. Sometimes you'll find it's that first post. A lot of times where the walkway hits the dock, the back side of the dock, that can be a hot area. But regardless, when you go out there dock fishing, try to figure out where exactly on the docks the bass are found, whether it's the platform, the walkway, where the walkway hits the dock. Sometimes it's the very last post on the end of a dock is where that fish is. I was fishing on Table Rock Lake just a few years ago, actually with Tyler Anderson from Tyler's Real Fishing. And I got on a dock bite and I was catching all smallmouth under docks, which was a lot of fun. But those smallmouth were located on the very last post in the deepest water. If I cast anywhere else, I wasn't gonna catch a smallmouth. If I hit that post, I would catch a fish. So really trying to figure out where the bass are located on the docks is extremely important. And once you figure that out, once you get a few bites, you can start to run just that spot. It can really help you to, I mean, you can start to hit 60, 70 docks in a day as opposed to, you know, spending a lot of time maybe only fishing a few docks or however many docks in a day. Now, the second part as to where that's really, really important, especially if you're fishing bigger impoundments, bigger lakes, even bigger rivers, is where in the lake are these bass relating to docks. For example, when I was catching those fish on Table Rock on that post, not only did I figure out that those fish were on that deepest post, I would only catch fish on docks, smallmouth on docks, on the mouths of creeks. That lake has a ton of docks, main lake docks, docks way in the back of pockets, docks everywhere in between. If I fished all those other areas, I wasn't getting the number of bites I was getting if I just focused on those first couple of docks kind of going into these pockets and into these creeks. The mouths of these areas was really, really hot. So I had it dialed down this particular, you know, time that I was fishing that, hey, these fish are on the last post and they're on the mouth of the creek. That helps you eliminate so much water if you can figure those type of things out. So that's really, really key. Try to figure out where in the lake and where on the dock those fish are. Okay, now let's talk about tip number 2. And this is something that I have done a lot over the years, and it all involves the swim bait. This bait right here is a key bait for me anytime that I'm fishing docks, and not necessarily catching fish on it, but locating fish. The thing about a glide bait that you probably know from either listening to me or watching other videos on YouTube is that it has a lot of drawing power, meaning that it can draw fish from a distance just to come up there and either eat the thing or just they're curious about it. So what I have found over the years, when I feel like fish are on docks, a lot of times I'm gonna take this bait, I'm gonna cast it right alongside of a dock, and if there are fish underneath that dock, even if they don't bite this thing, they're gonna come out from under that dock and follow it. And so therefore you can kind of narrow down not only where these fish are, but also the size of fish. If you are a tournament angler, this is really, really key for you, especially if you can pre-fish for these fish, because you can go along these docks, pull individual fish out, and you can be like, oh, there's a 3-pounder on this dock. There's a 4-pounder on that dock. On all these docks, I only saw 2-pounders. On that dock, there was a 5-pounder. And you can really start to figure out where the big fish are relating. And then come tournament time, or maybe just come later in the day if you're just out there fun fishing, you go back to that exact same dock, but you don't throw the glide bait this time. This time you throw a jig, you throw your wacky rig, you throw your typical, you know, dock fishing baits up under there to try to catch that single fish that you found with the glide bait. That is a very, very powerful tool that you can use, again, whether you tournament fish or not. And the best thing is that there are days where those fish are gonna come out there and absolutely hit that bait, glide bait, and you're gonna catch some biggins, and it is just a lot of fun. But that is something that is very, very powerful. It can really help you to, again, eliminate a lot of docks. Now, the third thing, and this is also a very important thing, and it's something that takes just kind of a lot of practice, is that I have found over the years that sometimes that spot that I was just talking about in the first tip of this, where I was like, hey, you gotta find that exact spot on the dock where the fish is. Sometimes that spot is simply the spot on the dock that has the deepest, darkest shade to it. That place that is the darkest underneath that dock is where you're going to find that bass. Now, with that being said, I think it's very important that you start to figure out and learn how to skip lures, how to skip a bait way up underneath of a dock, excuse me, because if you are having trouble getting your bait into an area on that dock where you're like, man, I think that's probably where that fish is, more than likely a lot of guys are feeling that exact same thing. They are not able to hit or skip their bait as far up or into real precise areas. And so therefore a lot of guys just skip it. They just, hey, they're gonna hit the outskirts of things. They're gonna make that easy cast. And then guess what? The next guy comes and he's doing the exact same thing, making easy cast. If you look at every single one of the best dock fishermen in the world, they are all elite dock skippers. They are all the best in the world. You look at all the guys that come from the Carolinas, like North Carolina, South Carolina, where they do a lot of dock fishing down there. Those guys are elite. Like Andy Montgomery can put a jig into a crack in a dock this big with this, much of a gap. So I'm not saying that you have to get there, although it would be nice if you did. The big thing that I think is important to do is don't feel like it's bad if it takes you a few casts to get up in there, because more likely than not, other guys are making a cast or two and they're like, forget it. They're just moving on. But if you can, like, even if it takes you 5 or 6 casts to make that perfect skip up there, I'm telling you, it can be definitely worth it, because a lot of times that deepest, darkest shade pocket that's hard to get to, that's where old big girl's gonna be. The big girls we like, you know what I'm saying. All right, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Here's my most recent video, and also here is fin fishing. Appreciate all the support, guys, and I will see you tomorrow.